You will discover how our team is trying to hire an assistant coach who was turned down by a defensive coordinator we wanted, and why this might be our best option right now. But it doesn't stop there. Let's dive into how the latest defeat in the race for the defensive coordinator position leaves us with an excellent hiring opportunity that could change everything. And there's more. You'll understand how the hiring of Jonathan Gannon by the Packers narrows our search and reveals who the 3 final candidates are that could lead our defense in 2026. The Washington Commanders are scouring every corner in search of a new defensive coordinator. And now there's a new name on the list that deserves attention. As a fan who follows every move of the offseason, I know this is one of the most important decisions our team can make. They have already ruled out Jonathan Gannon and Brian Flores, and the search continues with names that haven't been considered before, showcasing the difficulty we are facing. Many of the experienced options have already been dismissed, so they may have to turn to a defensive coordinator and play caller, still inexperienced in the field, to lead the Commanders' defense. The latest option would be to hire a key assistant coach in exchange for a candidate who turned down the offer to stay with his current team. This strategy could be smart. The Commanders will interview Durante Jones for the position of defensive coordinator, and this is interesting news. The Commanders have a long list of defensive coordinator candidates, but it continues to grow as other teams hire names from Washington's list. After Flores turned down the offer from the Commanders to stay with the Minnesota Vikings as defensive coordinator, Washington reached out to one of his top assistants. If they can't land the top name, they then go after their protégés. And the Commanders are doing just that by interviewing Durante Jones, the defensive pass game coordinator for the Vikings. Jones has been with the Vikings since 2022 and was retained by Flores when he took over in 2023, which demonstrates the great confidence Jones has in his defensive system, capable of operating at a high level. Moreover, Jones is a native of Maryland, so the prospect of returning to the DC metropolitan area could be a decisive factor in the move. As a fan, I would love to have someone with local roots leading our defense. It would also be a significant promotion for Jones, an unmissable opportunity that could benefit both parties in this partnership. Durante Jones is seeking his first position as a defensive coordinator, and this is a risky bet. Jones has never been a defensive coordinator, nor called his own plays as a position coach at the age of 47, and this could be a great promotion after working with one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL. The Vikings allowed the second least amount of passing yards in the NFL in 2025 and had the 7th lowest completion percentage. Jones would bring a defense focused on individual coverage plays and cover 3 coverage, with the secondary being the strong point, something we desperately need. The Vikings also offer a wide range of pressure strategies, something that has been lacking with the Commanders. But like many other top candidates, Jones has several options in the league, with the New York Giants and the Los Angeles Chargers also considering him a strong candidate. The Commanders need to make a big push and create a strong impression of why their defensive coordinator position should be attractive to a rookie professional in the role. As a fan, I hope our front office is convincing enough to bring Jones to Washington and finally solve our defensive issues. And now, get ready to understand how the latest setback in the search for a defensive coordinator position could be a blessing in disguise. You will discover why this leaves us with an excellent hiring opportunity that could completely change the fate of our defense. The Washington Commanders are still looking for their new defensive coordinator as the market continues to shift rapidly throughout the league. Coach Dan Quinn needs to nail this hire, and the team has already lost significant candidates like Jeff Ulbrich, who was not released by the Atlanta Falcons, and Brian Flores, who remained with the Minnesota Vikings, which was frustrating for us fans. Other teams in the league are finalizing their own hires for defensive coordinator, making the Commanders' search clearer and more focused. The Green Bay Packers were one of the Commanders' top competitors and made their own hire, which eliminates one name from the list but keeps another securely in our consideration. The Green Bay Packers hired Jonathan Gannon as their defensive coordinator, and this news has direct implications for us. The Packers interviewed 2 of the Commanders' candidates, and their decision would significantly impact Washington's options. After losing Jeff Hafley to the Miami Dolphins, they hired former Arizona Cardinals coach Jonathan Gannon, taking him off the market. Gannon is officially out of the Commanders list, and he was one of the top choices for many fans, given his experience and success in Philadelphia before becoming a head coach. As a fan, I'm not sure if this is such a big loss, considering his mixed track record in Arizona. It's a loss for the Commanders if they really wanted him, but it also protects them from losing another great option. The change in the Packers' defensive coordinator position leaves Al Harris with one less option, and that benefits us. We all expected Quinn to hire a familiar face, given his background on defense, and Al Harris was the top option. The Packers had their eyes on Harris due to his history with the franchise, and he helped lead the NFL in interceptions with the Chicago Bears this season. Harris should still be one of the top candidates for the Commanders, but he has also been interviewed by the Tennessee Titans, so they need to act fast if he's the chosen one. They could also be on the lookout for a candidate like Carl Scott, who is still in the playoffs with the Seattle Seahawks. Quinn needs to decide if he wants a defensive coordinator with play calling experience or not. Neither Harris nor Scott has ever called their own defense before, and this may be something Quinn has to overlook, being an up-and-coming defensive coordinator in the league. The Commanders had one of the 3 worst defenses in the league last year, and despite injuries, we saw many players regress in the system, so perhaps the defense needs a completely different perspective. And now, to wrap up, let's dive into how the Packers hiring Gannon narrows our search and reveals the final 3 candidates. You will find out who these names are and why each represents a different approach to rebuilding our defense. The list of candidates for the Washington Commanders defensive coordinator position got a little shorter before the AFC and NFC championship games, with Jonathan Gannon reportedly going to the Green Bay Packers. According to information initially reported by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, Gannon will replace Jeff Hafley, who had been the Packers defensive coordinator since 2024. Why Gannon was not the right person for the job is something that needs to be discussed. Gannon had already been interviewed by Washington as one of several candidates to speak with the team about the position, but many never truly considered him a favorite for the role, based on head coach Dan Quinn's statements about being more aggressive and generating more turnovers on defense. Gannon's defenses were never known for exhibiting those characteristics, except for one season as defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, where the unit recorded 70 sacks, despite little strategic intervention from the coordinator himself. Comparing pressure production on the quarterback, in 3 years as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, Gannon's defense never surpassed 41 sacks in a single season. In comparison, the Commanders' defense recorded 42 sacks in 2025, despite no player reaching double digits in that mark, which shows we are not that far behind. Similarly, the Cardinals managed only 19 turnovers in 2025, which is almost double the 10 Washington achieved, but still a 3-year record for the team under Gannon's leadership. All of this led to the conclusion that Gannon's teams relied more on the talent of the roster than on the structure of the scheme to achieve success, and that the scheme did very little to maximize existing talent. Clearly, Green Bay sees something different, although with talent like that of outside linebacker Rashan Gary, among others, it is possible that the team is looking for someone who simply positions the star where he performs best. Gannon's advantage as a candidate for the Commanders' defensive coordinator position was his extensive experience in running his own defense, which would seemingly allow head coach Dan Quinn to keep the offensive coordinator and play caller David Blau in his first year in that role. Like Gannon, Brian Flores was also interviewed for the position, with similar experience, although more consistent and successful. This leaves, as far as is publicly known, a list of remaining candidates that includes Carl Scott, defensive backs coach and defensive pass game coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, Al Harris, defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator of the Chicago Bears, and Patrick Graham, defensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders, as the 3 final favorites. Scott will be coaching in the NFC Championship game this weekend, and if the Seahawks are eliminated by the Los Angeles Rams, it could accelerate the hiring of Washington's new defensive coordinator. And with each candidate announced, we fans grow a little more anxious to find out who will lead the Commanders' defense in 2026 and take us back to the playoffs. So, fan, after hearing about Durante Jones as a potential candidate from the Vikings, understanding how Gannon's hiring by the Packers benefits us by protecting Al Harris, and discovering that our search comes down to 3 final candidates, which of these names do you prefer to command our defense? Do you think we should bet on Carl Scott, who's in the playoffs and shows solid work in Seattle, or would it be safer to hire Al Harris, who has the connection with Dan Quinn and led the NFL in interceptions? And more importantly, do you trust that any of these candidates without play-calling experience can transform the league's 3rd worst defense into a competitive unit in just one offseason? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think about the future of the Washington Commanders.